Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you've all had a really good new year and new start to the year. This video I've been putting off a little bit. People on TikTok knew my story as to how I became diabetic and everything like that. Whereas you guys on YouTube, which is now my main platform, I'm not making a new TikTok account. Don't. And it's really important, no matter how hard it is for me to share my story, and sitting and talking about it is going to be a little bit challenging for me, and I'm going to have to really think about what I'm saying to make sure I'm remembering correctly and everything. But I'm just going to go ahead and tell you guys because it is extremely important for me to raise awareness. It is my purpose. I believe it's my purpose, and I'm not going to stop doing that just because my TikTok account's been taken down. So if you're interested, please keep watching. I am going to warn you now that it is not just I went to the doctors and got diagnosed with diabetes. It's a little bit more graphic than that, let's say. So if you're interested, keep watching. I know that it has happened to other people. I'm not just a random one, but I need to share this story. It's important to me and it's important to a lot of other people, so please keep watching. So around October in 2021, I started to become extremely thirsty, going to the toilet a lot, and I lost a lot of weight. Now, they didn't all just happen at once. It wasn't just like a, you know, over a week I realised it. I sort of didn't think anything of it because I didn't know anything really about diabetes. I mean, I learnt about it at school, but that's not exactly, you know, you don't think, I didn't think, people may know, but I didn't think you could lose your life to diabetes. I just thought it's something you had, something you dealt with, and that's that. I became extremely thirsty, and when I say extremely thirsty, I mean I was drinking about 3 litres a day. 3 litres a day of any and everything. I remember I bought one of them huge banana milkshakes you can get, the Yazoo ones, from a shop, and I don't even like banana milkshake, and I drank the whole thing within like 3 minutes. I was waking up, this, like, as it goes on it gets worse, if that makes sense. So when my symptoms started, it was just like I'm a bit thirsty and all that. Nearer to before what actually happened, I was going to the toilet about 4 times in the middle of the night. I can like usually hold, you know, if I need the toilet I can usually hold it at night, but this wasn't. If I needed the toilet I had to go. And something else that happened was I went to the doctor because I was getting like irritated down below. It's a bit TMI, but I'm going to tell you because it's important to know. And when I went to the doctors, they turned around and said basically I had thrush, which was fine. Loads of women get it, it's normal. So I had medication, I believe, for that. But it's weird that at the doctors they didn't pick up that I was diabetic. But they didn't, which is fine. Moving on to when I woke up, I think it was the 23rd of November. Also, my birthday's the 27th of November, so it was my 21st, I had a nice party all planned and everything. Obviously didn't go ahead. But on about the 23rd of November, I believe it's that day, I woke up at my boyfriend's house and sat up and was sick. And was sick and was sick. And he had to walk me home. I literally live like 5 seconds down the road. He's literally a few houses up. And I came home and lived with my mum. And we just thought I had a bug. Alright, I love you. Love you, bye. Bye. Came back to, sorry, I'm all over the place. I came back home and we just thought, it's a stomach bug or something, I'm really poorly. But as the day went on, I was in bed all day. As the day went on, I was being sick about 4 times within an hour, my mum said. Now, I can't remember much from that day, really. I remember hallucinating in bed. The only thing I remember hallucinating about was that there was this prince and I had to protect him or talk to him or something. It was in my head, like I wasn't seeing things. But I would fall asleep and then if I moved slightly, I would be sick. And it got to the point where just basic water was coming out and it was hurting my chest because of the like acidic stuff. I don't know all the terms. But it was really painful, started to be painful. It got to the point I couldn't sleep. This was later in the day, I couldn't sleep. I wasn't well at all. My boyfriend came round, he was at work. He came round and said that my mum needs to call 111, to which she replied saying, I think she's just got a bug. And then he went back and then he came round in the evening, to which I moved downstairs when he was back and had a pillow and was literally just hugging the pillow in agony in my chest and my back. And I was crying, I was not okay, I was shaking. My mum said my lips went blue. Sorry, I'm trying not to get emotional about it because I'm here and I'm grateful for that, but when I actually talk graphically about what happened, it's like, whoa, that actually happened to me. Right, so when I was downstairs, obviously in pain, my mum eventually called 111 because my boyfriend said to. I was still throwing up, I couldn't move, I was in the same position, nothing was comfortable, and at this point I was screaming for medication. I was like in so much pain in my chest and my back. I still don't know why that was, but I needed something to, like, I was not with it, my eyes were glazed, I was all over the place pretty much. And I remember when my mum was on the phone to 111, they said she should have called 999 because it's not right. I to the point I was struggling to breathe. If you hear squeaks, it's my chair, by the way. I wasn't with it at all, I couldn't see properly. And luckily I live about 2 minutes away from the hospital, so they was here within 5 minutes, but to me it felt a lifetime. As soon as they came in, I was like, I need some drugs. Like, I was shouting at them. I know that sounds horrible, but I was not with it and I knew I needed medication, so that's what I said. So I just need drugs, please, blah, blah, blah. And they said, we've got to take your blood, we've got to know what's wrong with you before we can give you anything. Anyway, because my body was so dehydrated, they couldn't find a vein. Now, if you look at my wrist, that's a pretty veiny wrist. My veins have always been like on show, like you can see my veins. I'm not a non-veiny person, and I'm not the biggest person either, so they're there, you know, you don't have to go through a lot of flesh to get to my veins. They couldn't do anything. I think they tried to prick my finger. I'm not sure if any blood came out or not, I'm not 100% sure. And then I got into the ambulance. I don't really remember anything about the ambulance ride, to be completely honest, but I must have got in the ambulance. And then I remember being in a ward because they thought that I might have COVID. Obviously COVID was going on and stuff still, so they had to check I didn't have coronavirus, to which I didn't. And they said I wasn't allowed to drink anything. Now, I was extremely thirsty because I was still unwell. I managed to have some orange juice, which from the pain here was 10 out of 10. I couldn't drink orange juice. And I ended up, when I sort of came back around a bit, they gave me gas and air in the ambulance and then other things while I was in the A&E bed. I rang my mum and Dan and said, why have you not called me? Do you not care? And they said, we can't call you. It's like, until it's been an hour and it's been 20 minutes. I was like, it's been 3 hours. What are you talking about? I said, no, it's been 20 minutes. Time just wasn't there for me. and I was out of it, like not okay. They done a scan, a scan of my chest, like this big machine thing came and I had to sit up and they had to put something on my back, and then they done an ultrasound, and while the guy was doing the ultrasound he turned around and he said, "Are you married?" while he was looking at the ultrasound, and I thought, I'm pregnant, but I wasn't. Don't worry, I wasn't pregnant. That's just a little funny story within this whole big mess. And then I don't remember how I got there. I mean, I was dosed up on drugs, I was out of it, I wasn't well, I was still throwing up. And then I went into intensive care, where I woke up and they told me that if I was left for half an hour to an hour more I would have been in a deep coma. And they were shocked that I wasn't in a coma, so I'm proud of my little body for fighting through that. When I was in the intensive care bit, they kept trying to put cannulas in, because I went up to intensive care the night I went in and they couldn't get it in my vein, they couldn't find my vein, and then they said they was going to have to put it into my ankle or my groin if they can't get it in. And out of the whole experience, that was the worst thing to hear, other than the fact that I could have been in a coma. That was the worst thing to hear, because I can deal with needles, I can deal with stuff, but a needle in your ankle or your groin, like a cannula. Ooh. The reason I was like that is because I had a DKA and my ketone levels were 99.99, I believe. So almost 100. Which they said they suspected it would be like that. They weighed me while I was in there and I weighed just under 7 stone. I'm now 8 stone. I've always just been a steady 8 stone really. So I lost a lot of weight, and the nurse in there was absolutely lovely. She brushed my hair for me. She was so nice, she brushed my hair for me. And then got another nurse who could put it in a plait, because I couldn't move. I was wired up to literally 8 machines. If I can, I'll put in a photo like here, and when my parents came and saw me and everything, because they was allowed, because it was intensive care, like they was just a mess and shocked. Going on to when I found out, it was probably the next day. I was in intensive care for 5 days, so it was the next day or the day after, and I just remember when I was in there, I kept saying to the doctors and nurses, am I going to be out for my birthday? Because I don't want to spend my birthday in intensive care, obviously. And they said, we don't know yet and everything. I don't know why it mattered, because my party wasn't going to go ahead anyway. I wasn't well enough. But yeah. At some point a few days later, this lovely nurse came round and explained to me that I'm diabetic. I had to have injections. They injected me when I was in hospital, because obviously I'm not, you know, with it. And the needle was like this long in my stomach. When the lady come around, she told me I was diabetic, massive needle, put it in my stomach. Obviously now I'm out of, when I came out of hospital I didn't have that massive needle, I had just my 4mm one, which is perfect. But there was a proper syringe, so when I got told I was diabetic and that's what I have to do, I was a bit scared that I'd have to use the syringe because it was so big and scary, but it wasn't, which I was thankful for. I will do a whole nother video on the mental health side of it, because it does affect you mentally. I'm not going to sit here and say that I was the strongest person ever, but everyone around me has told me how proud they are of me, which it means the world to me. When I was diagnosed and everything, because it was such a traumatic experience, I was just grateful to be alive, and I was just grateful that it wasn't something worse, like for example terminal cancer or something. Like I can manage this and I can deal with this. It's something I can control myself, it's not something that's out of my hands. So I was just grateful that I had the option of that and that I was still alive. My birthday this year, I went to my sister's for a nice family meal, and I remember hearing everyone, because it's around the same time, it was the same week, I only got out the day before my birthday, and I was sat and everyone was chatting, like my nan and my niece and my nephews and my mum, my boyfriend, all chatting, having their own conversations with each other. And my boyfriend's sister, sorry Adrian, you were there. And I sat on the floor because my stepdaughter wanted to sit at the big girl table, and I didn't mind sitting with my little nephew, I love him, and my niece. So I sat on a little kiddie table and I was just on the floor basically, and everyone was just chatting away, and I just closed my eyes and I could hear everyone, and I just started crying. I just broke down because I almost wasn't here. I'm trying not to get emotional because I am here and it's good, you know, but the thing that makes me emotional is the fact I almost wasn't here, and you don't realise until something like that happens how the little things matter. It's the little things that make life worth living, and the fact that like my niece and nephews would have had to have grown up without their auntie was a bit difficult. I knew I would cry. I'm so sorry. I'm not sorry because we're allowed to have feelings. But yes, anyway, back to the story. I'm going on a tangent. When I was in hospital, I had my visits and things, and they kept me in on many drugs and things to get me stable, which I was. This story just gets worse from here. I will insert photos again here of what one of the cannulas ended up doing to my arm. Yeah, I knew it wasn't right. It was sore, it felt swollen, it hurt, and no one would listen to me because the nice nurses was only there for two and a half days, and then like it was the daytime nurses that were the most loveliest nurses ever. The nighttime nurses were a bit abrupt, like for instance, they would come in, like switch over themselves, and one of the women just walked up to me and started pulling my arm and doing my thing, and I said, "What are you doing?" Like, and she said, "Oh, I'm taking your blood." And I thought, no hello, no, you know, how are you feeling today or anything like that, like no empathy for me. It was sort of just get in, do your job. Which if I was a nurse, I would not be like that. There were so many lovely nurses there, but I do have to put that in because some of them can be harsh and it's your body. So finally getting out of hospital, they moved me down to a normal ward where there was these lovely women. They're so funny. I didn't see them because there was sheets and things, but I could hear their conversation and it was so funny. I can't say certain things because I just can't, but they was hilarious, and then one of them got moved, so they stopped talking. The day I left, I was in that ward, and my mum came to see me in the morning and she said, "I'm not leaving without you with me because I was due to go home, and you know what hospitals are like, they take forever to do things," which I understand, they've got a lot of patients, a lot of stuff to do, but she said, like, "I'm going to stay with you until we go home." It was this really poorly lady across from me, and she died in front of me. Yeah, she was really unwell, bless her, and she said things, and I don't think the nurses really listened in that ward, and her husband was there, and then this alarm went off, they shut the curtains and announced her time of death, and I just had a panic attack. It was really horrible. My boyfriend's sister come and got me and my mum from hospital and took us home, and I had a very quiet birthday, which was not meant to happen, but a very humble birthday. I just wanted to be around people. I did manage on one of the days to like following. I looked very groggy and things, but I did go for a meal with my nieces and nephews and Nan, Faye and her partner and things, and yeah, it was nice. And on my birthday, my best friends came round and just dropped some gifts off. She said I look awful. She was joked. No, but I did. And I had my boyfriend's friend and girlfriend come round on my birthday, and we just got a kebab. So it was a nice birthday. And then I'm diabetic in the outside world. Now, while I was in hospital, I got the Libra, which is the round thing on your arm. I'll insert a photo. I got a Libra, and when I left hospital, they didn't really give me much information, I won't lie, and that led me to doing a course and being now qualified in any diabetes really. I've got a level 2 course in it because of the way I was left when I left hospital. I just wanted to go into a job where I could help people, especially with my experience dealing with it and having it, because no one knows better than another diabetic. When I went home, all in hospital, my sugars were in the green. I went home and they went right up to 19. I didn't know what they were meant to be. I had no idea. It wasn't until after that I realised that my sugars were 40 plus when I had the DKA. And so when I left hospital, my sugars were 19. I actually called 111 because I had no idea what I was doing, to which the guy turned around and said, I don't know what your sugars are meant to be. So what should I do? Just leave it. Right. And have a DKA again. When I came out of hospital, I was so scared to touch food or sugar. Like, I was petrified. I hardly ate. I didn't know. You learn while you... I always say to people with diabetes, like, when you're newly diagnosed, it's a learn on the job thing. You will be the person who knows what your body can and can't do. I'm incredibly grateful for everyone that works for the NHS and to have the NHS in this country. If it wasn't for that, I would have died most likely. I don't have the money for the bills that Americans pay, and I mean the Libras alone are £50. Thank you to all my friends and family for supporting me, and all of you subscribers, followers, everything like that, even though my TikTok's been taken away from me. I'm not going to stop raising awareness. This is what I'm made to do. I believe I probably missed out so many details of what actually happened. So if I have, please leave questions in the comments or message me on Instagram. I'll probably make another one of these, but slightly different on how I deal with things and stuff like that. So yeah. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope this video does help raise awareness.